We are joined here today by Rusty Jones, head coach of the Principia College men's tennis team. Thank you for joining us, Rusty, to talk about the SLIAC All-Decade men's tennis team.
Yes, sir. Thanks for inviting me, Brian. Happy to be here.
First of all, obviously, Principia program, great success this past decade, winning 7 SLIAC tournament titles. What do you think has been the consistent key to success during that time for Principia?
Honestly, I really think the focus of driving home the point that creating a synergy of a team environment where they really understand the impact of their individual success on the team itself, I think made the biggest difference. When you take an individual sport like tennis, and you try to infuse the identity of a team into that kind of a mix is a challenge. But when you can achieve that, I think they're playing for something bigger than themselves. And I think largely that's what we've tried to carry forward and what we've continued to do well. Even though maybe the face of the teams change, it's a blessing to have, especially a group of athletes that go the distance with you as a coach rather than transfer out. And I think we've had that privilege of having players stay with us and play 4 years and really create that synergy and that team identity.
Yeah, like you said, the face may change, but continuing that key is success. 8 of the 10 players of the year from the decade were Principia Panthers. Jason Wisman, a 3-time player of the year. Can you talk a little bit about Jason? I think he was a little before your time, but I'm sure you've heard stories and got to know him a little bit afterwards.
I did. I actually transitioned into Principia when Jason was transitioning off. But within that time, I did get to know him. I got to watch him compete when I was getting to know the team. I interviewed with them as a group, and so Jason was part of that interview process when I was coming aboard. Jason just was a class act individual. He was sharp on the tennis court, but he was a good sportsman. But the thing that I really loved about him, he just had tremendous grit, and a willingness to do whatever it took to win. He had great success in the conference, as you saw, and winning 3 times Player of the Year is a phenomenal thing. And I just think he had many opportunities, even outside of conference in the region, to do well. And I was just really, really proud to be on the heels of such a player who set such an example for us. I really, really admire Jason for what he accomplished.
Again, that success continuing through Jason, with whether it's Brody or, Daniel, Nat, Jules, just a plethora of talent on campus. What were some of the most memorable matches or moments for you in the last few years as a coach?
I think one of the most memorable matches for me was the conference championship match in 2016. When we played with our good rivals, our fellow Panthers, Greenville College and Greenville University now. That was a very, very special day for me, and primarily because I had a physical challenge that season, and my assistant coach stepped up for me and helped with those guys. But I had a really wonderful beginning with that team, and then towards the end, I was able to get to that conference championship match, and the guys hadn't seen me in several weeks. And what was special about that day was when I arrived and I was able to sort of cheer them on, and it was a very, very tight match with Greenville. And it was fun to see that idea of team that I talked about kick into gear the way it did that particular match. And Brody had a match that he had lost to Greenville against, and ended up pulling out a very, very decisive win that day. And then Jules was the deciding factor. When Joey had a good decisive win, and then Jules had a good one going, and you could tell he was putting it out there. And when he had that winning shot that actually clinched it for us. What I remember most was how they all celebrated in a way where they were embracing each other as a team. And that actually, for me, is what started the momentum carrying forward from there. That was a very special moment.
That's great. That's great. You mentioned there a little bit about your rivalry against Greenville, the other Panthers.
Yeah.
Your two programs have met for the last 5 SLIAC championship matches.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about a couple of Panthers on this all-decade team in Justin Tilford and Nate Wieland? I remember the doubles matches that they would have against your doubles teams, and those were some battles.
Yeah, they really were. Justin and Nate were both the boys were just fantastic guys, and so I really enjoyed seeing them every year. What was fun for us, and even beyond the conference, is that in the wintertime we do a fundraiser, and we have doubles tournaments, and those guys, and quite a few of the Greenville's guys, but especially those two in particular, would come and we would play with each other. And that rivalry started then. It started before we were even playing in conference. And so it was really, really fun to hold these little tournaments, in the off season, and where the guys would come in and pay to play, and we'd already start the rivalry, and you could just see them gearing up to play and gearing up to just match up and maybe try to do one up from the last time they played. And then of course, we would remember how it went in November, and then come April, when we had to play when it counted, there was always that energy, that extra juice in those matches that took place. And with Nate and Justin particularly, they had such a passion for the sport, and Brett always does such an amazing job coaching doubles, and it's just a great deal of fun to watch their success, to know that they were successful, and to know that it pushed our guys, to do their best, and that it wasn't a walk in the park, that we actually had to come and bring it. And they were battles, like you said. It was just fun. And the thing about it is I think we have such a respect for each other, for our programs. And I've gotten to see, like, Justin in circles outside of our our tennis programs, and we just have a nice relationship, and it's been really, really fun. And it's when at the end of the day, when the conference championship rolls and we came out on top, that was a hard day. It was a hard day, because you feel for them. I felt for those guys.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I did. I felt for those guys.
It's good to see that camaraderie on and off the court, and that's what makes it all so special. So, my final question for you, Rusty, is: are there any players on this list that you're going to look back, in 10, 20 years, and just kind of reminisce and think about, wow, I'm glad I was able to coach, or I was able to watch them on the court. Anyone you want to give a little shout out to before we wrap it up?
Well, I have to give some serious kudos. Joey Sander in particular, I got to coach for him. I got to coach him in his senior year. And there was a special memory with Joey at the ITA regionals where he got Nicholas Chua in the second round, defending champion 2 years straight from Chicago. And that match in particular for me was one of the most exciting things, because Joey was the only player in that tournament that actually gave Nicholas a scare. And it got Chicago's coach and their whole team actually standing half court and watching that match conclude. And to just have Joey put our little college on the map in that huge event was very, very exciting. And to just watch him play with such grit. The other player in particular, there's so many. Daniel Gomez, there's so much to talk about. He's still playing with us. But as far as this dream team purpose is concerned, I'd have to say Greg Sovey. On a number of levels, Greg, in his tenure here, has raised his position to be one of the top 10 players in Principia history from a career singles record and doubles record. His growth from freshman to senior was phenomenal. Talk about somebody who left it all out on the court, it was Greg. And he was my team captain for the last few years. And I just have to say, you know, the honors that he won as newcomer of the year, player of the week a few times, but also what SLIAC honored him with the leadership award. That was just a tremendous thing. And then he was nominated for the ITA award as well. And so I just have to say, Greg, in that conversation, but they all, Jules, Nat, Brody, you know, that group came together. And now that we have Wyatt in the conversation, a senior now already, I can't believe it. Newcomer and player of the year, which hadn't happened, I think, in a decade. So that was very special. And then for Daniel Gomez to come in and put the cherry on top for what we've been able to do and hopefully are going to continue to do with Daniel this next season. It's just been a blessing to have coached these guys and to have befriended them. And it's just a privilege. So when I step down, having those memories couldn't be more special to me, and those relationships as well, and them with each other.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you again for talking with us today, and we hope to see you on the court again soon.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the invitation.
All right.
Look forward to seeing you.
Take care.